Good morning. My name is Michael Crosby. I'm a Potus candidate. I filed Democrat. I was the first candidate to file. I filed through the insurrection style proceedings through the United States Archive, which is a prescribed constitutional process. Gentlemen, I'd like to talk to. I'm going to be addressing General President Sean M. O'Brien and General Secretary Treasurer Fred Zuckerman, and of course, appropriately, anyone who is going to get a hold of this presentation. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started with, first of all, you can find me listed at PCPT M. Crosby on X. That's PCPT M. Crosby at X. You can also find me on YouTube. You can catch me by Googling Michael Crosby for POTUS YouTube. That should come right up. I have more than 170 videos that effectively have been basically posted already. Let's take a noise break. I'm going to talk about the fleet that just got destroyed because of COVID. There is a serious problem with election rigging in California for the recall election. I was running for governor. I lost over 40 vehicles, basically over all of this. I have a loss of 18 mobile broadcast RV vehicles. I'm going to cover that throughout, back and forth. I will cover that from time to time. There's a lot of material. Now, what I want to really focus on is mass economic modeling systems. I've been booking mass economic modeling systems as I've been a continuing candidate for the presidency, basically since around 2005, since my first fire-up. Now, many people have not caught on to what it is that I'm doing, but I do have parties that are recognizing me as the number one AI candidate in modern history, that I have the best economic plan in the history of the world, and that I have the best plan to improve people's incomes and address any possible needs respectively. With me, I'm going to bring a 24/7 addressing of any issue, unlimited, to basically government, the White House, entire government, using advanced AI systems. These are not just going to be the simple little chatbot that has a narrow mind, so to speak. We're talking about having a very large scope, no matter what the issue is. Now, let's talk about finances. On finances, what will help is if you look at a lot of the material. I've got several hours that I've recently posted to the understanding of people that are forestry, firefighters, FBI, DHS, so forth, etc., because these parties have creative style work schedules that can be modified so that they can get involved in building their own hard assets, their own home, their own hand, owner, builder, guaranteed profitability. It would again be very helpful to see some of those aspects to understand. And with truckers, we have a different situation, as I've spent some time over the years looking at trucker situations and interviewing truckers respective to different styles. Obviously, road truckers are different than in-town truckers. Road truckers have a unique option where you have a more serious guarantee that these parties are going to have a substantial continuous income at their pay grade. Now, I have a philosophy and a design structure that will deal with no downtime. This deals with, for instance, parties end up doing a over-the-road schedule, and as we know, warehousing does not always work the way we hope, and the dispatching doesn't always calendar out the same way that the road cooperates or works with, so to speak. So we have people showing up, they cannot have their loads received. Therefore, we have all of this downtime. We have all of this extra paperwork, extra type of claim situations, and different types of time that people end up having extra waits. They got to wait. They got to get in line. Turns out to be 4 or 5 hour process, sometimes longer, 14-hour process. Now, with this, if you're away on the road, the building process in the mass program that I'm putting forth has into it a form of what is known as Oracle interaction. These are for other parties to assist with other people's projects, and some of them are as simple as also going through the basic security options at the locations, where in some choices people opt in to have the drone security options. That means that somebody can use their cellular communications to tap into check site security, to check progress, to help with appraisal videos that need to be made. When a request for appraisal video, they can actually operate the drone and run it through its sequences to take the images necessary to be for the assistive situation involving new appraisal, an update of a construction site for its ongoing loan process. So my policy is in effect, max production, zero downtime, so that there's always something that can be alternatively done at a premium pay grade. Well, that having been said, you're probably assuming that the mass construction is a big part of mass production. Yes, it is. I have a plan to stop all types of loan discrimination and reinvent dozens of new types of back-tow loan coverage systems. I also cover some different high investment on how the install of my idea of a new national archive is going to affect every citizen. And in particular, unions, guilds have different types of options that add extra extended features to people's investment opportunity and acquisition of creating new hard assets. So I'm looking forward to getting every citizen back to work. My design initially will create a negative 33% unemployment rate in this country. It's going to guarantee that every American citizen is going to be able to be building at least one home. If you're a vested citizen, that's 9 out of 10 citizens. You got at least one person in your family that connects back 150 years. That goes all the way back to the Louisiana Purchase, goes all the way back to the Alaska Purchase, all of the land acquisitions. Basically, my presidency is going to help people recover their stock, their residual, their land rights, so that every citizen can build. Once again, I'm talking about an aggressive build system. If we go back to I've given lectures on the 1750 comparison to the average 12, 14-year-old, which builds their own board-foot equivalent of 2-bedroom house in 2 to 6 months. The modern terminology for 45 years of work, this translates out into 482 bedroom houses, 482 bedroom houses. So the obvious understanding that people are going to parlay, I've got a system that would allow some people, if they want, to work as little as 5 years and be able to retire. I want to return the mandatory, you do your 20, you can start getting paid the next day, even if you decide to do something else and go to work for someone else. So I'm going to be canceling the get paid at age 65 situation. I've worked really hard to design a new mechanism that's going to be able to do that. Part of the new construction asset acquisition system works based upon many factors. For instance, recently we've had, in the last several years, about 30 million new people come to the country. And in my view, that means that we have to guarantee that 30 million new home constructions basically take place. That means that we have to make sure that citizens would be building an appropriate amount of structures to be able to drive this forward. Obviously, when people build their own structures, there's a customization factor to it, which increases the retail value. Now, the bonus on this is I have a plan to pay off the national debt in 3.5 years. Let's talk about that real quick. Basically, in home construction, more of this will be revealed if you go look at my other videos, is basically you build 70 cents on the dollar. So, and if you're your owner builder, you're also giving yourself a paycheck out of this money. So if it's borrowed money, you're going to be giving yourself a paycheck, which can perpetually move you forward if you just want a contract for yourself. But basically, a lot of people, they want to do something different in life. Okay, but the way this works out is that you build a $300,000 house, let's say, and its actual cost is going to be about $210,000. And in the $210,000 is also covered your pay or part of your pay for participating in the project. The government, historically, our forefathers print money on several major ways. One is they track bank interest, and they have to print bank interest to be able to equalize the trade balancers, or we cannot facilitate trade. The other way is based on new hard asset creation. This has generally been considered real estate. However, I've got a way to get creative looking at new ways to look at that as well. So effectively, the government, you build a $300,000 home, the government's going to print $90,000 or upwards to $90,000. They may not print it all right away. Now, this means that with my new mass upgrade program, that we're going to be able to get 75 million new construction starts. This includes people who also want to have more extended properties, outbuildings, their own little shop, something else that they want to do. It also includes equipment purchases, being able to buy your own utilities, own your own solar outright, nationwide, to be able to do things such as having other types of appliances generously located throughout a structure where you can buy high-end appliances and it's hooked into the 30-year mortgage. Now, even though the appliances may not last that long, the appreciation rate factor overcomes the loss rate factor, and then we are managing a much lower rate when we're talking a 30-year new construction option, pushing that in. Okay, so basically our forefathers started the process. This was basically part of the state-sponsored capitalism, because the initial idea was, we're on the number 5 Constitution. The initial idea was basically we were supposed to have a creation of a new East Indies company as our republic, with everybody as stewards and stockholders, getting residuals and benefits and land options, which of course that's why there was originally only voting rights with people who were landowners. You weren't a landowner? Great, you go down to that building over there and that guy has a map and he'll help you stake some property out. Then you can come back and you can start attending the rest of us who are having our steward meetings. And you are a citizen and a voter. So so effectively the government would print money off of this new differential between the wholesale value versus the retail. Now, the way I have the building plan set up, we're going to be able to literally pay off the entire national debt in 3.5 years. Now, on the table for governance and discussion is, if you're doing all the labor to build a house and the government's printing a 30% differential, why should the government always get that differential factor? So that's on the table for discussion, because it might become fair. I see a day where the fairness would be half, that you would get half of that back as a residual return because, well, you did the labor. So I'm very big on that. So we have a lot of different options to make these mass models work. Mass models, again, are the thing that I want to get going. I've been booking them for years. I was laughed at in 2005 when I began basically booking, saying we need $4 to $6 billion a year investment into bringing about mass economic modeling software. Obviously, things have begun to change. People now understand the aspects. We have other collective nations spending more than $170 billion a year on some form of software modeling economic material. China's actually a big competitor. We've got a lot of competitiveness that has occurred all over the world. We have to think about that economic situation. And I'm really big on restoring the generation of hard assets of many types, not just hard assets for people building new homes and second homes and vacation homes and being able to have those outbuildings and that other thing for your retirement. You want to have your shop built. You want it financed on a 30-year. Various items that are really solid, because those are all solid longevous assets. I have a program to try to identify what is a longevous asset and help us work with a mass production attitude. I'm not going to go into a lot of the corporate ideas that I have at the moment, but they are significant. So again, I'm very big on getting a large project going, on getting mass production going at maximum capability. And that means every person that wants to work will have more work than they know what to do with if they want to do it. And that means that people can be able to retire in different amounts of time, as little as 5 years. I'm also looking at basically installing what is the largest anti-price gouging system. I want to levelize and guarantee and protect the basic supply chain situation. There's a lot of ways to do that. Again, a lot of these things, I've been talking about these for decades. Other players want to come up and start talking about little tiny things, and I feel like they're a bunch of clowns at the circus coming out with a large bag of peanuts, throwing out loose peanuts, saying, here, save $15 a month on this, $25 on this. No. Let's get mass economics going again. Let's talk about purchased leveling pricing situations for fuel. I've got a mass fuel leveling price system. Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, real quick. Basically, if international prices on oil change, that translates out all the way through the refineries on the purchase acquisitions, through the entire chain to the pumps. This means more labor all the way across the board. This means that every type of business that's out there has to do price changes. That's labor. That's labor to sit down and have to address the price changes. So this translates out into millions of hours of time that effectively where things have to be done. Now, the way I've looked at this for the mass economic modeling is what makes sense and comes out very, very well in the model, is what we do is we accept the fact that prices are going to fluctuate. And then we decide that we are going to do a coverage pay at a federal level. This basically means that we're going to bite the bullet and we're going to pay something known as a differential. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a basic understanding of a set price so we don't have to keep relabeling and repricing everything as a base standard. But the fluctuations, let's say somebody's buying oil internationally and this time it's going to cost 10% more, or whatever it is, they put in a sheet immediately that goes into a government system with an automatic coverage item. So when you have verified banking, it's a virtual automatic coverage so that the purchasers, call them the refining companies, whatnot, that are bringing into the country this oil to be processed will be able to immediately get that differential factor covered as an electronic pay-in. So we're talking about a very fast, very rapidly, it happens in minutes or hours. So this way we have a levelized, we are basically purchasing, what we're purchasing is a levelized standardization of our prices. This means we're eliminating all of that extra labor from wild pricing fluctuations so that people don't have to rechange all of their books, all their pricing at the stores, all their warehousing. This will translate out to a small but a significant amount of labor changes. This can add to more efficiency. This could help in a minute way, stopping additional paperwork at warehouses, so they'll be able to free more people up and more efficiently accommodate people respective to warehousing, which can translate out to faster addressing of truck loading and unloading. This also will work out very well individually for people's lives, because they basically are going to be faced with something that's easier to manage economically, to understand as standardization. Even though the free market value fluctuation system is completely respected. But what we're doing is we're gaining efficiency by not utilizing the extra labor of the wild, unpredictable fluctuations. This will be enormously helpful. This becomes a savings to all of us because we all get stuck. We're all going to be stuck paying the bill anyhow, and we know this. So we just do it one time at a federal level, and we go to a standardization. I hope you'll have assigned people to look at some of my material and understand what I am proposing for adding a whole new series of creative loan guarantor systems, loan option systems, new systems for unions because become union banks if they're not already, to expand union banking, to get better wholesale money from the Fed options, to use the larger collective power of an organization to guarantee more flexibility and have more money available for guarantourism for parties to work with projects. By the way, this can extend into areas and understanding when there's not enough work. When there's not enough work for people that are members. Well, that means that other members can say, oh, it's great. What we're going to do is, it's already encompassed in Mr. Crosby's program, that you can borrow money and just go ahead and build yourself a house or a second house or a vacation property and make use of that downtime. Keep that 100% production going while increasing your asset value, your own asset value. So we have a creative fluctuation of adjustable loan programs, graduated payment systems that are very attractive, that will work, that are reschedulable. So this also deals with the understanding that I'm doing the base national policy, but we have the union standards. Every time a union comes into play, that brings on an extra back toe situation. It models out really, really good. So that having been said, I think we're at a new arrival. So based upon the two items I just discussed, we can sit down and discuss the possibility and understanding that if we have 400,000 missing members from your union, that we can discuss possible options to get those numbers back. Perhaps an additive of saying, okay, we can have experimental adoption of various parties who might be independent. We can sit down and discuss what those options are. Maybe one of the options is, okay, tell you what, if you want to sign up on certain things and do some of your own construction and basically connect in through our union banking system, we'll help facilitate that for independents. Will help add that extra feature into their lives. And of course, the union banking system is going to financially benefit from a nice cut right there. So I want to say that anything can happen. We can sit down and discuss what can be a practical, doable item, what is going to work out well where other members can realize that a new inventive way of creating a new back toe that creates an income situation that puts money in people's pockets or allows to lower dues requirements. If we can get the situation to eventually be able to have its own financial mechanism that runs as a standalone by itself, so that it becomes even more attractive for people to become members. I'm open to a lot of discussions. I believe that adhering to including all unions, guilds, and citizens into mass economic modeling is the key to the future of guaranteeing a max production state. I want to see max capitalism for every individual. Okay, let's quickly move on to the next item. Let's talk about Citizen Federal Republic stock. Basically, what I want to do is return the original agreement, what I seem to see as the original agreement, where the great land acquisitions promised people that they were partners. And I want to restore that. I want hard stock printed. I want something known as permastock. Permastock is a different type of some of the hard stock, but the permastock version is a stock that you can't really sell. That might sound strange, but it's important. The permastock is something that you pass down to your siblings. It keeps going and going. This keeps American citizens vested. This is something that keeps track of the fact that we're investors and we deserve not to be cheated. And in so doing this, we basically will eliminate the concept of welfare because everybody's willing to go to work usually. And that means that you'll be protecting not just your future, but your children and your grandchildren's future. So by restoring the understanding that if we paid $10 million for a vast amount of territory, that's been paid for many times over. And we're not getting our residuals. We've been cheated. We've been cheated. We have to restore this. This means that the mineral monies that are being collected by the federal government, the various residuals that are charged off of extractions of oil, gas, etc., again, going to the federal government. In some cases, the state government, but let's talk about the federal government. Going to the federal government, we need to sit down and talk about that and say, no, wait a minute, I think that needs to be something that needs to be adhered to a direct connection to citizen federal stock, basically. So a federal republic stock issuance having residuals is a way to get a positive track system as a reward system for people who are citizens and work and get that back into play. I also believe that we need to track back and understand vested citizens who have already paid for extended periods of time with cash, with taxes, with sweat, and with their blood as well. And we have to address that. I'm very big on that. I believe we need to address that. So that's a big sit-down talk. I want to move forward on that. And again, as president, I will be able to deal with making sure that that happens because I will fight to regain the legal rights of every citizen. I will instruct the attorneys to get this done because of the historical information and the various implied understanding of what's been happening. So restoring our rights and ownership into capital that's been in existence for a long time is also another key role in the mass modeling setup situation that I want to put into place. Now, another item, next item, let's move on. Another way I'm looking and when I've been doing this modeling effectively is that, when you're doing mass modeling, what you end up working with is little tiny cogs. You got to figure out how these cogs are going to work as you're going to build this mass model. Even though you can't even activate the full mass model yet, you're still working with sections of it. I can make this section work that. So understanding the options when considering that we're going to effectively have time to be able to readdress and have a phase in or phase out of a re-understanding of what is flaws of the government. This would deal with items such as, well, people did things known as emergency stopgap measures. That means they put a tax or a permit or regulation or something on something, and it's not appropriately assigned correctly. In fact, it may not even be proper at all. And by working with the new hard asset development system, since the government's going to be printing vast sums of money, we have the ability to look at the model and say at what point in time are we going to have a new way of understanding that we are restructuring the way that things work and the way that the federal government gets a hold of money. Therefore, we can begin the process of phasing out taxes that seem screwball or unnecessary. I'm also very much for the review to continuously review. Use these AI super mass modeling systems to basically be able to look at a lot of these different regulations and say, do we need to do it that way? Is there a simpler way? Because in many cases, there actually are simpler ways to do things. We might be able to eliminate the concept, literally, of regulation as it's been known, turning some of it into an automatic system where certain things are done automatically, and it's no longer a regulation, it's just simply a logic system operating in place. This will free up people's time. This will free up paperwork. I'm very committed into integrating this for a very long time, as a real positive aspect to the mass modeling system. Let's move on to the next item. Another area on the mass modeling is to deal with the integration and phase-in of what I call co-ops, co-op medical testing centers. These are not hospitals. These are not full clinics. Now, this is not to say that I'm not addressing those items separately in a different area of understanding the mass models. However, it is very practical to come up with a series of miniature models, basically, that deal with people hooking together, saying that they want to be part of a testing center. We have a lot of medical systems that are already in place at a governmental level that already cover a certain amount of testing. And most people don't even maximize that allowance. Now, the bonus of doing what I'm talking about is that there's different ways you can schedule this. You don't have to do this in town. You can end up scheduling this on a vacation. In other words, saying, I'm going to go in and spend 4 hours of my vacation, if I've decided to go wherever it is. Maybe it's Lake Tahoe, who knows? And say, I'm going to schedule this in for my trip. So we're going to schedule this in. We can have the kids. We can do whatever we want. And I'm going to go in and get my 4 hours of testing done and run this full sequence. Now, part of the bonus, let's talk about the bonus now. Let's talk about the bonus here. The bonus feature is that with unions and guilds, they actually end up purchasing and owning these new little LLC, businesses, extensions, nonprofits. So effectively, there's a back toe that allows money to go directly back to the parent, which would be, of course, be the fact that these little miniature clinics, testing clinics, effectively are owned by the union or the guild. So this means that effectively you can control fair pricing standards, and there's profit residuals that go back into. So this becomes an overall back toe system of a new invention that is wiser than saying that, well, we can just keep paying somebody else's rate to do that. So other people already have different types of medical incorporation, what's not. This is something different to be considered, and it does have a for-profit aspect. Again, I try to work everything in the mass modeling to re-understand the for-profit capitalism system and re-empower each person individually to be a shareholder and participant. I'd also like to mention that this also affords people the ability to make sure that they get all of their testing done, because a lot of people don't get all their testing done. So this is something that is very important. And there's other features I've mentioned about it. There's other ways in the model things can be looked at. Again, things are wide open here. You'll run into other stuff where I talk about what I want to do for the border, the U.S. border. Now, basically, somebody, the $1 billion spending on a wall, to me, that was a poor investment, because we could have spent $1 billion building SAR satellite and satellite extension interpretive computer technology coupled with AI. This brings about automatic paperwork, scan ahead options, identifying parties, because SAR basically for more than 20 years can see a blade of grass. So we're talking today, we got satellites that are 60 plus frames a second. Many areas of the country have multiple overlapping satellites, 7 satellites overlapping. That means hundreds of frames per second. That means that 70 to 90% of our bodies even are in full 3D. And this information can be basically pulled out by computers. Now, utilizing this technology on the border means that basically we can look at anybody coming into the country that's allowed to stay effectively being on probation. And that means that it's a protection system that works multiple ways. Number one, they're informed right away that they're going to be locked into the computer system on this. Everything about them is tracked. They don't wear anything. It's just the way it is. So don't go off and commit any murders. You're never going to escape. It's pretty much a no escape system. It's not flawless, but it is a major step forward. Now, there's an opt-in chance here also as well, because when we're talking about trucking, trucks are such large objects. They're easier to compute when utilizing SAR. They're easier to detect and trace activity. It's electronically just more efficient. So there can be an opt-in to say we want to sit down and look at that we want better protection overall for truckers, and this means that basically you don't want to screw with a trucker, or basically there's no escape for you. So this is an important item that can be discussed. It's on the table. It's there. I mentioned it. Let's move on to the next item. My plan also is eventually to implement the SAR system for people to have the right to access it. Let's say that you got a ticket and you feel like you were entrapped and that the signs were not correct. Well, the SAR systems would be able to verify that. So we can have systems where you could appeal a respective item utilizing technology and have the SAR rework an investigative item. That's on the table too. That's an item that is up on the table to discuss. Let's move on to the next one. We also have one that's the failed disclosure of a shippee, somebody scheduling shipping, and it didn't get routed right, or their location has a flaw. It has a delivery flaw. Therefore, it's confusing. A truck driver made a move that was actually safe, but he gets a ticket. Well, I think that might be wrong. Again, that's up on the table too. We can discuss that. Moving on, next item. Okay, there's a lot of other issues, I'm sure, and there's a lot of other issues I'd like to talk about, but I want to move forward. It's important to address why Michael Crosby for president is a valid option. Number one, I was the first party filing. I filed as a Democrat. I'm an identified Democrat. I filed through the United States Archive because we had insurrection. We still have insurrection and rebellion. Now, here's the thing. I do not have to withdraw when the other parties committed fouls that are considered acts of war by the Articles of the Constitution and by the Constitution itself. And since I run an archive, there's another set of charges. It's not just them manipulating an election and attacking a candidate, committing acts of war a candidate. I'm an archiver. It's very important to understand this additional aspect. Because I'm an archiver, these parties have attacked an archiver. When they blacklist an archiver, when they attack the income of an archiver, when they jeopardize in any way a museum, an archive, artifacts, in this case, artifacts older than the Constitution of the United States that have been lost, damaged, or stolen. So this is important at this point in time to understand that these parties face the most serious charges on the board. They face more serious charges than Mr. Trump is currently dealing with. So we need to reassess an understanding that Trump is going to be going to prison. There's a lot more charges that haven't even been filed yet. Trump's going to prison. It's overkill. You know, that's where I'm at. It's just so massive. There's just no reason to consider it any other way. So he's not a viable candidate. And Harris is connected all the way around with Julie Su, Shirley Weber, current AG. She's from an AG's office. She's connected to a long pre-series even before COVID. And I have witnesses that are the IRS, that are other states. So here she is, a major participant causing the destruction of what? mobile archive vehicles. So it's not just election, these are also archive vehicles. You don't attack a nonprofit, you don't destroy artifacts. By the way, the United States Constitution describes parties who are participants in destroying artifacts and attacking museums of being in a category where their penalty is the death penalty. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. This is not a game. So at this point, it's very important for the Teamsters, I feel, to understand my position, to look at the evidence that's there, and then understand the value of what it is I've been researching and working on very hard for more than 20 years, and say, somebody doesn't like what I do because I seem to be studying bringing a better future. I feel this is important as an argument. And that's why I think that reassessing the truth of where the percentages are right now, if we look at the percentages, that the media has not been fairly disclosing all these percentages. We've seen them doing a 100%, a 99%, a 98% accountability with just two candidates, and we know that's not the truth. We know that's not the truth. We have 7 other candidates out there that are grabbing points. We're looking basically at a fairness of more than likely 18%. I know that researching independently, that 31% of the vote was not accounted for when they tabulated the two candidates, which means the two candidates only got to 69% combined between the two of them. This is an anomaly that is a record breaker. It is a record breaker. So when you look at the statistics and you understand that Kennedy's campaign hit 20% at one time, but there was a discrimination on the polls factor, and we need to be realistic about this and understand what are the most important choices to move the future forward faster for every citizen, to protect their wallets, to protect their jobs, to protect their future, their children's and grandchildren's future. So this is a very important item on the table to consider. Is it going to make a difference if the Teamsters back which party? Would it be more important to the future of the Teamsters to back me, Michael Crosby, as a presidential candidate and move mass economic modeling, AI, forward into the theater in a way it's never been done before? We can discuss these things. The Teamsters have a lot of creative ability. Now, granted, my creative ability to be able to have literally my 18 mobile broadcast RV archives basically having my name on the side of them. I mean, just 12 of them in Los Angeles freeway system would be seen by 1 million people a day. Granted, some of them would be the same people again, but that's the exposure to 1 million pair of eyes a day. And anyone who's a Teamster would know this and know that this is real. So that was my startup. And I got burned out of it, and I would have rapidly added more units. I like a bang for a buck. I don't have to go out and buy a $700,000 super diesel bus to try and get an ultimate custom paint job on it and drive around saying, "Hi, how you doing? I'm running for president." I can go for the bang for the buck. I can go for used equipment. I can go for used RVs. These things are affordable. I even had an RV used to belong to George Fishback, the weatherman, if you can believe that. Called it the Fishback. It hurts a lot because it was a very important vehicle and theme for me. So I think it's very important to sit down and assess what would happen to the future of this country if the Teamsters were to decide to endorse me as a candidate, considering what the generalized voting situation is, because it's going to end up in the House of Representatives, more than likely. It's going to end up in front of the House of Representatives. And that means that we're going to have Trump going to prison. We're going to have Harris being confronted before Congress, along with Julie Sue, Shirley Weber for election rigging. All these parties in their election rigging and all their activities coming forward, they're going to be disqualified. They're going to be let out in chains. I'm going to be there to arrest them. I'm telling you straight up, I'm going to be there to arrest them. You know, they've attacked an archive. They have violated not just their constitutional oath, they are diabolically opposed to the Constitution. I'm trying to move mass modeling forward and guarantee the assets and the right to build assets and ownership of land for every citizen, and that includes anyone who's a union member. So I think that I am the best party to work with, to endorse, even if it's only a partial endorsement or independent. Everybody make their own decision, because we can make a change. We could sit down. We could sit down and talk about strategies, because you're the Teamsters. We can sit down and talk about strategies and what could happen, because right now there is an incredibly powerful piece on the chessboard that can change the history of this country more rapidly if I'm the choice for president. I really would like to continue discussions and sit down over more issues. I want to thank you guys for your time very much. My name's Michael Crosby. I'm running for Potus 2024.